Hello, 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 and welcome back to yet another college football video. How are y'all doing, man? Because I'm doing really good, but really Ohio State fans because they just watched their team win the national championship game. This will actually be the final time this season where we talk about a week of games that were played. But fear not, because we get to talk about the most important game. And listen, I'm very upset actually. I know I said I'm doing good, but I lied. I'm very upset because I just recorded this video and my goddamn Wi-Fi to my house cut off after like 5 minutes because I was cooking so hard in this video that my Wi-Fi had to shut off because I was going too stupid. But listen, before I pat Ohio State on the back and congratulate them, I want to glaze myself real quick. Pause. So you guys don't really have to see the video; you just got to hear the audio. So let me shut up real quick. Like I said in the Georgia intro, this is a very tough decision for me on who to place number one. But I think the deciding factor was how many NFL first or second round picks Ohio State convinced to come back for another year. And on top of that, they have the best roster in the country, and then they made two of the biggest portal acquisitions in the country this offseason. They did upgrade their quarterback position as well. I feel like they checked every box they needed to convince me that they are the odds-on favorite to win the national championship. I couldn't have said any better myself, Rod, actually. I hope you guys heard that correctly. If you didn't hear that, what that was on June 11th. Yeah, June 11th. That was me correctly predicting Ohio State to win the national championship due to a whole bunch of completely flawless logic and reasoning there. So, yeah, I just wanted to say, congratulations to me because on June 11th, I correctly predicted the national championship winners. And, you know, let's get right into it, actually, because also my most previous prediction before this game, particularly between Ohio State and Notre Dame, I predicted Ohio State to win this game by double digits. Now, that in and of itself is not that hot of a take. I think they were like 9.5 point favorites. So even if you bet the over, then you're betting on them to win the game by double digits. But combining me correctly predicting the national championship while also, you know, saying they'd win by double digits, I deserve a little bit of credit there, right? But anyways, let's talk about Ohio State's path to get there, right? Because I shit on Ohio State when they lost to Michigan. And that was deserved, right? Because I say it a lot. I call it how I see it on this channel, right? When they lost to Michigan, that was embarrassing, that was disappointing, and that was shameful. And I called them out for it, justifiably. However, what they did after that was historic. It was amazing. It was one of the greatest sports comebacks I've ever seen in my life. And I'm just as the same way going to call it as I see it and say that that run that they just went on was amazing. So here we are, Ohio State with the hardest path ever in the college football playoff to win the national championship game. They had to go through uh, Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame. Incredible. And they beat them all, if I'm not mistaken, by double digits. Beyond impressive. Let's talk about this game specifically. So the reason that Ohio State were double digit favorites pretty much is because there was a massive talent discrepancy that I don't know if we've ever seen. Well, we saw it in Georgia and TCU, but there was just a massive talent discrepancy in this national championship game. And I'm not trying to make fun of Notre Dame whatsoever. What I'm trying to say is, though, I could name 8 players off the top of my head for Ohio State that are going to be first or second round NFL picks. And I could name another 2 guys, Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, who would be first round picks if they could enter the draft. They're not old enough to enter the draft. So that's 10 guys off the top of my head that would be first or second round picks in the NFL draft next year if they could. Compare that to Notre Dame. Their best player on their team is hurt, Benjamin Morrison. He's a first round pick. I wish he would have played this game. It would have made it more interesting. But besides him, you got who? Ryan Watts. And that, I mean, maybe he goes second round. That's even debatable. So it's a massive talent discrepancy here to no fault of Notre Dame. I mean, they had a great run themselves beating Indiana, Penn State, Georgia. Not the same caliber of competition as Ohio State, obviously, but still impressive nonetheless. I say all that to say, on Notre Dame's first drive, this 18 play, 75 yard, 10-minute drive to take the lead was beyond impressive. I was shocked that they were able to just impose their will and win at the line of scrimmage against Ohio State. I thought that that was going to be like an indicator of the rest of the game. Like, oh, this is going to be a slow, grinded out, mean, physical game between Notre Dame and Ohio State. And listen, I've said this for a while now. I think Notre Dame, especially this season, is like an upgraded version of a military school, right? They're like Army plus because they're never going to have as much talent as the Ohio State, the Alabamas, or the Georgias, or teams like that. And I mean, they definitely don't have the same amount of like NIL money as those teams, right? So they're always going to be under talented and the underdogs in these situations, right? And the way they win is by playing good defense and running the ball incredibly well. But just like Army and Navy and teams like that, if they go against a team that has a high powered offense, they just can't keep up, right? And we saw that because after they had their slow, grinded out 18 play touchdown drive, Ohio State goes on to score 4 touchdowns on their first 4 possessions. 11 plays, 75 yards. 10 plays, 76 yards. 12 plays, 80 yards. 5 plays, 75 yards. Quinshon Judkins had 3 touchdowns. Will Howard was playing unconscious in the first half, just flawless. And yeah, after Notre Dame, let's do the math, guys. After Notre Dame had that 18 play touchdown drive in the opening possession, they had -5 yards, 1 yard, and 7 yards. That is a combined 3 yards on their next 3 possessions in the first half. Not very good compared to 4 touchdowns. And honestly, I felt like this game was over early in the third quarter. Notre Dame pretty much went 4 and out. They did go 4 and out on their next possession after Ohio State scored their fourth touchdown. Ohio State made a field goal to put it at 31-7. Yeah, the game I felt like was pretty much over here. But then salute to Notre Dame because they really did fight. They had 3 straight possessions where they went at least 70 yards. They scored 2 touchdowns, converted 2 2-point conversions. And if their kicker wouldn't, I mean, Notre Dame's kicker this season, brother, let me tell you, if their kicker wouldn't have missed a 25-yard field goal, it would have been, well, it would have been 31-18. But if let's assume they score that next touchdown, it's what, 31-25? Like that is beyond an impressive comeback there. Like that is a legendary comeback, really. Down 31-7, and you make it a 1 possession game late in the fourth quarter. But how how beautiful is it that Ohio State, with the game on the line, to ice the game, to win the national championship, Will Howard throws a 50-yard bomb to Jeremiah Smith. Gotta have it. Complete it, you win. That's the play Ohio State goes with. Just amazing. Cinema, absolute cinema. So I say all that to say, salute to Notre Dame. They fought hard. They had an amazing season. And they made it a game when I'm sure a lot of people probably turned their TV off when Ohio State went up 31-7, and Notre Dame made it a 1 possession game, made it very interesting late in the fourth quarter. Now let's just take a look here at what happened in the game itself. Some of the key players. I don't know who got the MVP of the game. It probably should have went to Will Howard. What is that? 288 yards, 2 touchdowns. He played phenomenal. TreVeyon Henderson, of course. I mean, every one of Ohio State's big name players showed up. I mean, TreVeyon Henderson had 49 yards, Carnell Tate 35 yards, Emeka Egbuka 7 touches for 77 yards. He had a really good game, and of course, he was their best weapon on the outside. And Ohio State's defense also showed up. Man, they shut down Notre Dame for what, 4 straight possessions. While their offense was going bananas, they shut Notre Dame down on 4 straight possessions and built up a massive lead. 2 sacks from JT Tuimoloau and Sonny Styles. But on Notre Dame's end, I think Riley Leonard deserves a lot of credit. He put his body on the line. I mean, 17 carries is ridiculous for a quarterback. 295 yards, 2 touchdowns. They could not get the run game going. Running. And here's the thing, guys. Jeremiah Love. the the hype he is getting almost Donovan Edwards amount of hype. This man had like what was like a 98-yard touchdown run, right? In the rest of the playoffs combined, I think the guy has like 20 yards. Okay. Can we pump the brakes on Jeremiah? I'm just saying, if he was this dominant player that people were talking about, he'd have more than 3 yards, brother. That's all I'm saying. Jaden Greathouse was the MVP of Notre Dame. He made some ridiculous plays in the second half. He was their offense. I mean, he had twice as many yards as they ran the ball. He had more yards than every other receiver combined. I mean, it was the Jaden Greathouse show for Notre Dame. And salute to him, salute to them. Like I said, they made it a fight, but this was Ohio State all the way. It was a little bit close in the end, but they dominated this game. Let's talk about here some of the players because one interesting thing I want to bring up is just how good is this Ohio State team in context. Feel like I don't know why, but I feel like this Ohio State team is going to get like this. They're as good as 2019. Like, but they are on the side opinion and a lot of the Alabama national champion. And here's the thing that you need like the best quarterback in the country. Let's just quickly take a look at the last several national championship winning quarterbacks. You had J.J. McCarthy. You had Stetson Bennett twice. He was really good in his second year, but that first year he was average at best. Before Georgia, you had what Bama in 2020, Mac Jones. He was good. And then before that, you got Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence. Back then, I could understand Tua. Like that back then, yeah, you had three going on this year, 4 years. You've had average to above average to good quarterbacks winning national championships. There has not been a great quarterback in the last 4 years who's won a national championship. It's been good quarterbacks who protect the football and play their best football when it matters most. Will Howard, I would have not thought this. Now, a big part of this is because he played 16 games. Let's be honest here, but 4,200 yards from scrimmage, 42 touchdowns, and only 10 interceptions. That's a very good season. I don't know off the top of my head what Stetson Bennett was in 2022, but is it fair to say that Will Howard statistically is the best national championship winning quarterback the last 4 years? I feel like that might be a discussion right there. I don't know. 16 games, though. Maybe that's kind of misleading here. But Will Howard, I remember, guys, 73% completion percentage, by the way. And listen, he had a lot of talent around him. That's no question. But the whole thing, right, is that when he went there in the offseason to the transfer portal, there was a lot of people who were like, oh, I'm not scared of Will Howard. Swing and a miss from Ohio State. Will Howard, he's not going to keep me up at night. And listen, he was not that good at Kansas State. They kind of pushed him out the door. But, brother, he leveled it up this year at Ohio State. He played some amazing football, and he played lights out in the playoffs. I'll say that about Will Howard. He took it up this year for Ohio State, and they needed that, because, like I said, they didn't need C.J. Stroud this year. They just needed somebody to utilize the insane amount of talent that was around him. Let's take a look at some of those guys. Let's take a look at some of these running backs here. The duo of Quinshaw Judkins and TreVeyon Henderson was just incredible. You got TreVeyon averaging 7.1 yards per carry, Judkins averaging 5.5. I mean, TreVeyon Henderson, right? 1,300 yards from scrimmage. Didn't even have 200 touches, by the way. 1,300 yards from scrimmage and 11 touchdowns. Quinshaw Judkins, 1,200 yards from scrimmage and 16 touchdowns. You have a running back duo combining for over 2,500 yards was everything that it was cracked out to be. There was amazing hype behind this duo, and they lived up to all the expectations. Let's take a look now at the receivers. I mean, Carnell Tate emerged this season. He broke out. He was the least talked about player of the Ohio State Big Five going forward, because guess what? Emeka Egbuka, Henderson, and Judkins, they're all going to the NFL. Watch out for Carnell Tate, okay? He is going to get a lot more attention next year. He had 739 yards from scrimmage and 4 touchdowns. But obviously, the biggest story on this entire Ohio State team, really, was Jeremiah Smith, and deservingly so. The man had 1,362 yards and 16 touchdowns as a true freshman. And he just completely dominated Oregon. They could not stop Jeremiah Smith. He made the biggest plays in the national championship game when it mattered most. This guy is a phenom, unlike anything I've ever seen from a true freshman. Let's just get that out the way. So the offense was historically good. And the offensive line, guys, please remember, their offensive line, I believe they had 2 season-ending injuries. Their left tackle, Josh Simmons, and their center, Seth McLaughlin. Down two starters on the offensive line, and they still played as good as they did in the college football playoffs. Let's take a look now at this amazing Ohio State defense, which I listen. I know I said that Texas was the best defense in the country in my college football awards video, but that was before Ohio State played Texas, and I think that was before Ohio State played Oregon. I'm just saying, with how good Ohio State's defense played in the playoffs, I might consider calling them the best defense in the country. They're going to have a lot of guys in the NFL. JT Tuimoloau, 12 and a half sacks, 22 TFLs, monster season. Jack Sawyer, everybody and their mother has talked about how much of a story this guy has been. But I mean, brother, we're talking about 3 fumble recoveries, an interception, 4 takeaways from a defensive end, 2 touchdowns, 3 forced fumbles. Oh, and by the way, 9 sacks, right? So just an amazing captain, leader, and player for this team. Cody Simon, a stand-up linebacker with 7 sacks, 7 PBUs, and over 100 tackles. Sonny Styles, more of a safety converted to linebacker, 100 tackles, 6 sacks. I mean, brother. And listen, the cornerback duo, Ty Hamilton and Tyleek Williams, 2 amazing run-stuffing interior defensive linemen, essential to the strength of this defensive line. But let's talk about their cornerbacks. Davison Igbinosun and Denzel Burke, he's down here. They got criticized a lot this season. Denzel Burke just for kind of not playing up to where he was hyped up to be from last season. And Igbinosun, the man had like 50 penalties. But they held it down. They were not perfect. They were not flawless. Neither of these guys will be first or second round picks probably, but they played very well when it mattered most, I think. Um, and then obviously Caleb Downs, the acquisition via the transfer portal. He's a complete stud. I think this guy's going to be maybe even a top 10 pick when he's eligible next year. I mean, uh, just all over the place. Return to punt for a touchdown in the playoffs as well this year. He is a complete stud. Amazing defense. Let's count the NFL players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with Tyleek Williams. Ty Hamilton down here, 9. That's 9 at least on this defense. 9 defensive NFL players. Let's count them on the offense. I mean, they're big 5, obviously. All of them will be Donovan Jackson. So that's 7. And then Will Howard, I don't know about Will Howard, maybe, maybe not. But that's like, what, 16 players I just named for you? Obviously, Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs can't go yet. But yeah, man, I'm just trying to explain to y'all. I feel like this Ohio State team is going to get disrespected, is going to get slept on, but they deserve all the credit in the world. They were an exceptionally good team, and it was easy to see that at the start of the season. A lot of people had Ohio State as the number 1 team in the country, but they gave up on them when they lost to Oregon and when they lost to Michigan, especially. But Ryan Day, man, it's so crazy how 1 month, one game, one stretch can change the entire perception. I have not listened to what people have said about Ryan Day after this game, but without a shadow of a doubt, Ryan Day is no worse than the second best head coach in college football right now. Now that Nick Saban's gone, now that Harbaugh's gone, it is without a doubt, in my opinion, that he is the second best head coach in the country behind Kirby Smart. And it's just insane how this 4 game stretch of football solidified that, right? Because people were right to be upset. I was going to make an entire video about why he probably should be fired for not beating Michigan. But he put all of that to bed by having one of the greatest in-season redemption stories in the history of college football. That's why I love this sport. This sport is so amazing. I had such a good time covering it this season. And there will be a lot more college football videos this offseason. Trust me, they're coming. And quickly, I just wanted to say, I got some big plans, y'all. I'm not going to confirm this and hold myself to it, but it is very likely that for the next couple of months, I am going to be able to produce a video every 2 days. Every other day, there will be a video on this channel for a while. Okay, that I'm going to try and hold myself to that because I absolutely should be able to do that. Between NFL videos, mock draft videos, and college football stuff and the occasional quiz or UFC video. There is an abundance of content for me to make, and I look forward to getting that to y'all. So please leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.